How is Battlefield 5 doing in 2025? I asked a similar question in July last year when it comes to 2024, so here we are about 7 months later once more to check out how it feels to play Battlefield 5, how many people that are currently playing BF5, and also maybe some thoughts when it comes to the upcoming Battlefield 6 game. But we're starting here and now with gameplay in the background across some of the maps that probably many of you have already played quite a few times by now. Since I've made similar videos like this not too long ago when it also comes to Battlefield 1 and Battlefield 4, you might want to check them out later as well, especially if you're interested in the Battlefield franchise, but also if you might consider to start playing some Battlefield games if you haven't done it before. Luckily, there's sales once in a while, and I know due to comments on the other videos mentioned that you can get, for example, Battlefield 4 for just a couple of dollars. Feel free to fill in the comments if you made a good deal recently when it comes to any Battlefield game. Battlefield 5 was released back in September 2018, so it is already about 6.5 years old. But old doesn't mean that people aren't playing Battlefield game. No, it's actually the other way around. This is the Battlefield game that is having the highest player count at the moment, and it's been like that for quite some time now. If we take a look at the Steam charts, it shows us that it's been around 12,200 players on average a day playing Battlefield 5 and a peak of 32.4k players. Remember that this is Steam only, but good numbers already here for a game that is almost 7 years old. And if we then get into active player IO, since PC players is also playing the game through the EA app, and we also need to add the PS4 and Xbox One players into the equation. Remember also that you can play Battlefield 5 on newer generations of consoles as well. However, for example, if you do play on PS5 when playing Battlefield 5, some features available on PS4 may be absent. Anyhow, here's how it looks on active player IO regarding Battlefield 5. There's been around 1.8 million average monthly players and around 498k peak players in a day. This is numbers that leaves also the newest Battlefield title, meaning Battlefield 2042, behind. So with that out of the way, how does it feel to play Battlefield 5 in 2025? My first impression is positive, especially since I very seldom had a hard time to find a server to join. However, there was mostly breakthrough servers available, even though I played around with the filter settings in order to get some different options. I don't mind playing breakthrough since I believe it's quite a fun game mode, but I'm an old school rush player foremost, and I had a hard time to find any rush servers available at all, at least when I was recording this video. When the Battlefield 5 beta and later the full game was released, I wasn't a big fan, I have to say. For me, it felt as if DICE and EA started to take their steps away from things that defines Battlefield games, at least for me, especially since I did enjoy Battlefield 4 and Battlefield 1 a lot. It felt as if they wanted to appeal a bit more to people that are used to play more fast-paced arcade shooters such as Call of Duty. With very little recoil on most guns, movement, well, seems to be faster and you're able to slide as well in this game. The map design also makes you feel more vulnerable from almost any angle with not so many clear front lines. And it also feels as if not so many squad leaders are giving orders as in former games, and there's not so many players following those orders either, which leaves the squad mechanics somewhat behind. Maybe this also differs from game to game, of course, and also remember the game is old and some people simply don't care as much as before. Well, all of this described made me stop playing Battlefield 5 at some point, since this was a time when I was also still playing quite some Call of Duty, and I enjoyed Battlefield because it was quite far apart from the COD experience. But Battlefield 5 closed that gap significantly. But there's always a but, because time flies and the Call of Duty franchise started to decline. DICE and EA decided to move even further away from the original BF concept when they released Battlefield 2042. So I then felt that Battlefield 5 became kind of a link, if you will, between the old Battlefield games still having that Battlefield spirit, but also gave me a bit of that fast-paced run and gun and die and spawn again experience, which defines the arcadish feeling that you get when playing COD. So that in combination with the fact that BF5 also got some improvements along the way made me enjoy Battlefield 5 more than I had initially when the game was released. And it feels as if I'm not alone, since time has passed and People are looking for alternatives, especially if they are fed up with the newer design choices made when we're talking about both the newest COD titles, but also the newest Battlefield game, meaning Battlefield 2042. There has to be said, it's been a problem with cheaters in Battlefield 5, as with many other online shooters nowadays, unfortunately. I'm not saying that they are gone, but it seems as if the situation has gotten better over time now. Maybe it's thanks to the, or at least partly thanks to the EA anti-cheat system that was implemented into BF5 late spring last year. Because I do notice a difference from, let's say, 2023 when I was making a similar Battlefield 5 video and up till now. About 2 years ago, I did encounter a cheater or two in every other game I played, and some of them were even blatant cheaters, not trying to hide their business at all. So again, it seems as if this situation or problem has become better at least. Feel free to fill in here when it comes to your Battlefield experiences. If you're not an online gamer, meaning enjoying the multiplayer, but you do enjoy to play the single player campaigns in games, maybe also the Battlefield campaigns, then I would say that the Battlefield 5 campaign is pretty decent, although it has a pretty heavy reliance on stealth, which might not be all players' strength or interest when it comes to how you choose to play the game. But again, it's a decent campaign, around 7 to 10 hours long, depending on how you choose to play. And also, due to the possibilities nowadays to also get Battlefield 5 for a good price, it could definitely be worth it, even though you end up only playing the campaign. As you may know, there's not really any support going on here at all when it comes to Battlefield 5, and that has been the case for quite some time, especially since DICE needed most resources available when they started to work on Battlefield 2042. But it's interesting to know, though, that as a comparison, that Battlefield 1 received its last major expansion the same year Battlefield 5 was released, and received significant updates as late as a few months before Battlefield 5's launch. Meanwhile, Battlefield 5 support got cancelled a year and a half before Battlefield 2042 was released, with a full year between its last significant patch and Battlefield 2042's launch. But even so, Battlefield 5 delivers most of the time good and fun gameplay, and it still kind of tickles that Battlefield nerve when I'm playing, even though if it's not as immersive and gritty maybe as Battlefield 1. It is a game that most likely will appeal to a large group of FPS gamers, especially if you started to play Battlefield recently, or if you have a background on playing other games such as Call of Duty, for example. Well, the possibility to buy most Battlefield games once in a while for a low price nowadays makes Battlefield 5 a must in your catalog or library, I would say. If you're a dedicated Battlefield gamer especially, but also if you're simply looking for a good FPS game to play. With that said, I still hope that the developers, which is now a bunch of developers that are currently working on Battlefield 6, remember what made this franchise popular, and with that also go back to the roots and the fundamentals when it comes to creating a new and fun to play an immersive Battlefield game. The little we've seen so far from BF6 indicates that kind of, but I need to see more, and also would like to put my own hands on the game as well later down the line when it comes to playtests, to determine myself if the Battlefield soul has returned after it abandoned ship when Battlefield 2042 was released. And for the sake of God, don't you guys even dare to implement skill-based matchmaking or similar in Battlefield 6. Please. Well, thanks for watching, and if you enjoyed, make sure to hit that like button, and I hope to talk to you soon again in another video. Peace.
手榴弾投擲